Hello, welcome to Get Your Mind On. I'm Lori Stos. Well, we're continuing our series on having difficult conversations. And it's just very interesting to me as I get called by many of you to come in and help with these conversations. So I was joking with my videographer that why am I doing this? Because I'm taking away my future work. But you all know that I want to teach you how to have these conversations, because by the time I'm usually brought into these conversations, there's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of resentment, a lot of pieces that have been damaged, not only for the employee, but for the relationship, for the team members, and also for the customers. So I really want you to learn and to understand. And of course, I can't teach that all on this short video, but I hope I can give you some pointers to really think about how to make that more successful for you and to give you more confidence in going about this. So I really want you to think about, last week we talked about, kind of why we don't do it, the preparation stages to get ready for it. And now we're going to talk about actually having that conversation. So first you have to think about, are these conversations best had kind of on the fly, or are they best had when we schedule them ahead of time? Because I think that sometimes it's like that first step of how do we approach it, and then how do we start the conversation. So I really want you to think about it. It really does depend on what the situation is. If this is something that's gone on for a long period of time that really needs a focused conversation and some time spent, it's probably best to schedule some time. And number one, there's advantage for you because you've been delaying the conversation very likely. This will allow you a target date to have on the calendar, so you are scheduled to talk about it, so you have some time to get yourself prepared and get yourself ready for that conversation. And when you ask that individual, how you approach that conversation is just say, hey, I need to discuss X with you, the customer situation, or I need to discuss, a situation that we've had, or I'd like to get your perspective on this situation. I'd like to meet with you. That's what the meeting is about. So give them enough information that they're aware, but yet not to, quote, freak them out, so they're not worrying for the next week or a few days about it. Now, if it's something that is, I've kind of taught you to do feedback on the fly. If there's a situation that occurred in a meeting, if there's something that's occurred in a meeting, I still recommend that after that meeting instantly you say, hey, do you have just a minute? I'd like to just chat with you about what happened and get your insight, and do that feedback and right there at that time, because it's usually better when it's timely. Those situations, then they don't go on. And that's usually, those little things lead to the big conflict. Sometimes those little things don't matter as much, but when we have lots of conflict and lots of little things piling up, that's when we wait. And it's been, it's just like kind of like that employee review that we've had, is we don't have the conversation. There should be no surprises at that review. But if we haven't had any feedback along the way, and then you throw a, big list of things on top of them, they might be caught off guard. So best to manage as you go. So when we think about approaching that situation and walking into the meeting, I want you to have a couple things in mind. One is, this isn't a competition, it's a conversation. There's not a win or lose. The only time you're losing is when you're not having that conversation. So just go in with the mindset of knowing this isn't about me winning or them winning. It's really about how can we get better together. We're on the same team. We're here to accomplish something together. How can we do this? And so it's really about joining and getting back on track. So that's really important. The other thing is, be present. You really need to be present and have your mind focus on this conversation and this person. This person needs to know that you care about them and you care about their success, and help them know that when you approach that conversation that what the objective is. So many times we don't start those conversations because we don't know what to say. So now we're in the room. It's really important for us just to, if you've, again, taken some notes down to kind of keep you on track, it's really important to first just be very clear about what the situation is. What's the issue? State the issue. State it without emotion. State it with fact. And then be open to understanding where they're at. Are they aware of this situation? Is this totally catching them off guard? And kind of understand their perspective of what they're, where they're at. You can tell that instantly by body language, by, their eyes, their feelings, their emotions. Those kinds of things will come out. So you need to be calm and present and just like this. Again, this is a conversation that we're having. Second, we have to think about explaining to them what are the effects of this problem on others. So it's kind of like if X, then Y. Why, when you do this, this is what happens. This is how I feel. This is what's affecting our team. This is how the outcome is for the customer. So again, be careful not to place how they're feeling or any about them. You just state the fact of really, when this happens, here's how it affects others. That's really your second point. The third point is talking about the desire for change. So first, you have a desire to keep them on the team and to help them get back on focus, and helping them know that I really want to help you get better. I want to help this problem be solved for everyone. So first, express that, and second, get their input on that. They need to be able to brainstorm with you. You're not the one that necessarily should come out and say, I think this is what we need to do. You need to ask them, what do you think we could do to solve this problem? So really put it on them to think about it, because they may end up going deeper and thinking about the different types of things that could be done and coming up with a solution versus us being the one saying this is what you need to do. Because if it's not naturally who they are and they feel like it's our plan, then they're going to feel like, oh, well, I didn't really have much input on that plan. Where we want them to own it, we want them to take responsibility and have that conversation. Now, it might still be something just because about the relationship between you and the two of you. So that's where you both have to say, hey, you know what, I might have some responsibility to this. Maybe I could communicate better. Maybe I need to give you more feedback. Whatever it needs to be, you have a commitment as well on this final step of what you need to do. So talk about that action plan and what's it going to be moving forward between the two of you. And then the fourth thing is really, what are those next steps? When you walk out of that room, be clear. Be clear on what the next steps are. Make sure you're in tune with each other. This one conversation doesn't mean that it's going to be solved. Okay, it started the conversation. It's usually best to set up a follow-up conversation, usually within a few days, because once the conversation has been had, then we kind of need a little downtime to think about it. We know these conversations either feel really good and the air is lifted and it feels great when we walk out, or we still have some uncertainty because we're still processing. So I'd usually say to schedule another call or a meeting within 24, 48 hours, just to kind of loop back around, see how you're feeling, and really think about how it's going for both of you. And with that, also have that action plan. So definitely, in addition to that touch base within 24 to 48 hours, you need to have an action plan to say, this is what we're going to do by when, and we're going to meet every week, every month, whatever you decide to do. I would recommend meeting, depending on the situation, going ahead and meeting at least once a week for a few weeks. And then as the situation continues to get better, you can, of course, elongate that and just do touch bases along the way. But that way you kind of keep it on track. Again, it all depends on the different situation and what you're dealing with. I hope that this information has prepared you and given you a little bit more confidence to have these conversations. Of course, it's never going to be easy, but it's part of life. It's part of life. People are part of our lives. Relationships are part of our lives. Working together are part of our lives. So think of it, again, in a positive light instead of a negative light. Part of it is your mindset approaching this situation is really what matters. If you think of this as heavy and difficult and so much about conflict, and that's not a lot of fun. But if you think about more of the outcome, that what could this be after we have this conversation, that's where we need to focus our attention on. Let's focus on what's the outcome that could be. How could this be greater? How could I help this person grow? How could our relationship be better? Because we're both going to feel better. We're taking time and energy and heartache and pain through this process, not only us, but for our teams, our people, and our clients and customers. So the benefits are just so great when we can do this. So I recommend when you start this is to kind of ease into it. Don't take your most difficult conversation that you have to have that's been building up to start with. Just do some of those that need to be had with maybe your employees or friends or whatever it may be, and just start with the conversation. The biggest thing is just be open, honest, and authentic. If they know you care and you really truly want to solve this and make it better, that's where you need to start from. Many times we have those pieces of paper down with the notes, make sure we don't get off track. Once we get started, It's really about the flow of the conversation and just knowing people care about each other. I've done so many of these, and it just, pains my heart when I sit with people and we go through these conversations and I can just see in their eyes there's hurt, there's pain, and they just want that to be resolved. And that's just sad for me to see that. So I just love the feeling at the end of the day when we can get through some of that and we can accomplish, and I know everybody's feeling better, and we end up on a more productive path, and it makes everybody's lives better. So just focus on the outcome, focus on that positive piece. So for positive charge this week, I really want you to think about that conversation that you're going to have. We talked about having one last week. Today, I really want you to schedule one, and I really want you to outline the 4 key points that you need to have for that conversation in terms of understanding what needs to be had through that conversation, and get it scheduled and get it completed as soon as you can. You'll feel much better when you're done. Thank you for joining us today, and remember to get your mind on.